Hello students, today we have one important lecture of organizational dynamics, that is organizational conflict. Students, conflict is very common. It arises when different people in organizations are having different opinions that led to some kind of disagreement, which leads some kind of conflict. Conflict is very natural process. No any organizations can ignore conflict. Conflict is natural process in the sense variety of opinion, difference in opinion, in policies, practices, goal, mission, and in different other activities of organization. So today we learn to this module, to this particular lecture, organizational conflict. Why conflict arise? What are the different types of conflict? What are the process of conflict resolution? Because if there is no conflict, there will be no any kind of innovation. But up to what extent conflict is welcome? What extent conflict is more dangerous? This thing we will study. Now see some of agenda of today's discussion: introduction to conflict, approach of conflict, causes of conflict in organization, types of organizational conflict, levels of conflict, stage of conflict, consequences of conflict, the effect of conflict on organizational performance, reducing conflict, conflict reducing pre-requirement. So many things are there under this particular agenda. As you have seen, types of conflict is equally important, level of conflict is also important, but what is more important, what way you can reduce the conflict. See, one by one we can have some kind of discussion of different issues. First of all, introduction to organizational conflict. What exactly the meaning of organizational conflict? As it is mentioned, conflict is a normal, inescapable part of life, a periodic occurrence in any relationship, an opportunity to understand opposing preference or values. Conflict is described as a circumstance where differing goals, emotions, attitude or behavior result in disagreement or tension between two or more individual or groups. Organizational conflict arises when individuals participate in actions that clash with the goals or activities of their co-workers, members of their groups, or external individuals who interact with or rely on the organization's service or product. Students, these are all some of theoretical framework of organizational conflict. Theoretical framework is necessary to understand because sometimes we just take the conflict in negative way. But remember, it's not the negative phenomena. It's very important, and also the positive perspective of any organization. Different people are having different opinion, different behavior, different thoughts. Obviously, that particular thoughts creates some kind of difference or disagreement. And this disagreement from one person, that may be the agreement of other person. So what way we can correlate all kind of things, what way we can keep our conflict at the minimum level, which is very desirable for any organization for organizational outcome, job performance or organizational effectiveness. Now see approaches of conflict. There are three different approaches, students: traditional approach, human relation approach, modern approach. What exactly the traditional approach? Traditional approach is follow the authoritarian practice. That means organization top leader or the authority has to decide. They will decide basically what way conflict to be resolved. There is no any other approach. We are not getting any kind of feedback from the part of affected parties or the victims or the person those who are approaching as conflict. So traditional approach purely concerned with authoritarian principles, that is top to bottom level. That means top people will decide what way conflict to be resolved and which type of grievance to be converted as conflict, treated to be as conflict in formal way. Second approach is the human relation approach. That particular approach says that understand the people's mindset, people behavior, other parties' opinion, accordingly you just resolve the conflict. Then last approach, which is modern approach, most useful, most important, that speaks any organization's conflict is most welcome. Learn out of conflict. Learn what kind of variety of opinion. If you think that people are having variety of opinion, variety of thoughts, you just welcome it and encourage the people to give some of new opinion. Ultimately, you can frame the good policy of any organization. Now, see the second part, causes of conflict in organization. Causes, that is so called antecedents of conflict basically. Number one, structural factors, personal factors. What exactly the structural factors? Structural factors is nothing like a specialization, interdependence, common resources, goal difference, authority relationship, status inconsistencies, jurisdictional ambiguities. These are all the structural factors, means it is very common in association with organization. It is linked with organization. Specialization means some people they are having the different types of specialization. Some people deal finance, some people deals some other areas. Definitely people perceive their specialization in different way because they are more specialized. They are having authority of that particular domain. That creates some kind of clash. Interdependence is very important. Any organization, different types of activities, it is not the independent activities, it is the interdependence. That means all of activities are cohesive, all of activities are coupling. That means one particular department has to depend on other department. Common resources are very important things. Common resources means we are sharing the common resources is very important things. You know, that is the structural causes, antecedents. Common resource is very important in the sense if any organization using common resources and that leads some kind of clash in the sense what way we can share these resources among the different group of people. Then goal difference are very important thing. Goal difference, people, every people, those who are working in organization, they are having the different set of goals. I think in organizational behavior, it's very common that individual goal, what way it is to be adjusted with the individual goal, and that tussle can be resolved by using the proper mechanism. Then authority relationship is very important. Authority relationship is something like that, leader member relationship. Some of authoritarian people, some of top level people, they may have the variety of opinion as far as their junior colleague is concerned. Status inconsistency is very important part. In particular organizations, status plays a vital role that control the behavior of persons, that influence the behavior, modes, motion, everything. Jurisdictional ambiguities is very important because role clarity, any organization is one of the big issue. Role is not well defined everywhere. Then what exactly the thing basically, if role is not properly defined, it is not much clearly defined, so that leads some kind of ambiguity as far as their jurisdiction is concerned. But personal factor is more important factors, I am telling you, that skills, abilities, personalities, perception, values, ethics, emotions, communication barriers and cultural difference. It's very common practices, very common things. Why there is kind of conflicts? Like a simple example is the skill and abilities. Some people are having huge skills and they are not having the good abilities. Ultimately what happened? That clash the people, those are having high level of quality, high level of ability. So personality is also very important. What kind of personality you have? You are personality of agreeableness, and you are having personality of introvert or extrovert. These are all the things matters. Perception, what way you perceive basically. Your perception matters. If you are not perceiving in right way, then definitely that creates some kind of problems. Values and ethics is also one of the great concern. Values and ethics, that what kind of values you have basically, and what practices, what kind of ethics you have, ethical norms, and every people are not understanding all kind of things, and different group of people having different value system and ethical attitude is concerned, that creates some kind of problems, tussle that leads some kind of what I say that conflict. Emotion is also one of the most important facts. Basically affect is very important things. What way you are expose your effects. You know, if you are not understanding, if you are not emotional intelligence, that creates some kind of conflicts. And cultural difference is very important. Different people from the different culture. Some people are rigid about their culture. Some people are rigid about their rituals. All these things create some sort of problems. So this is the things which is needed to understand basically, that is so called structural factors, and the personal factor leads the organizational conflict. Now see types of organizational conflict. There are 4 different types, basis types of organizational conflict: on the basis of content, on the basis of impact, on the basis of direction, on the basis of authority. On the basis of content, process conflict, task conflict and the relationship conflict. Process conflict is nothing that way of doing the work and some sort of disagreement among the group of people, procedure adopted in the organization, and that creates some kind of difference, and this difference leads some kind of conflict. Now second part is the task conflict. That means the organizational goal, organizational vision that may differ among the different group of people. I think we will be learning later on stage that what way individual goal, organizational goal is making very relationship, understanding both the things under one thread. It is one of the very critical job. So what we need to study basically that particular cases. Task conflict means what exactly the mission, vision of organization, and that differs as per the different people's mindset, and people see this vision and the aim of organizations in different way, that leads some kind of tussle. Then relationship conflict is also very important part. What exactly relationship conflict? Like a peer relationship, junior subordinate relationship, and this kind of relationship creates some kind of tussle, that is so called what I said, that the conflict on the basis of content. So 3 different contexts are there basically on the basis of content: process, tasks and relationship conflict. On the basis of impact, functional conflict and the dysfunctional conflict. Students, it's very common. Functional conflict means the constructive conflict. Some kind of conflict is very important for any organization. Suppose you want to design some kind of work procedure, work system for organizations. People may vary as per the opinion framed by the superior people. So there is structural, there is constructive, and it is most welcome. This constructive dysfunctional conflict is very destructive conflict basically, that creates some kind of abnormality in organizations. It's not good for organizations. The dysfunctional conflict, Why it is arise, that is the another content of study, it is another issues basically. So dysfunctional conflict means it is destructive. People thought is somewhat different, which they want to create some kind of problems, they want to create some kind of tussle knowingly. Dysfunctional. Horizontal conflict and the vertical conflict on the basis of direction. This is also one of the main classification of conflict basically. Horizontal conflict means what basically? If conflict is resolved or so called arise horizontally among the different groups horizontally, and that is the horizontal conflict. Vertical conflict means it is arises from the top level and slowly and gradually that is moved toward the bottom level. So that is the vertical conflict basically. It is originated from top level and accordingly just spread to the lower level. Yeah, resolution of conflict, it is arises from top level, and this way you can say that is the horizontal conflict and the vertical conflict. So vertical conflict or horizontal, what kind of conflict? You know, it's very common almost all of organizations. Formal conflict, informal conflict, that is the formal conflict, informal conflict, that is classification on the basis of authority. Formal means which is structured, formal means which is very common, which is legitimate, which is in written, which is structured and is recorded conflict. And informal conflict, that is interpersonal behavior, it is unrecorded, it does not have any value, and it is some kind of conflict, that is the silent conflict you can say. So these are all the types of conflict basically. So conflict may be harmful, may be useful, and different things are there. So types of organizational conflict, then levels of conflict, there are different levels of conflict basically, you know, intra-individual conflict, conflict that arise inside individual mind. That means you are in trouble basically, you are not clear whether you know this decision would be the right decision, these alternative would be the right alternatives, and you are, I mean you are in great trouble in your mind, and that is the conflict arise within. Inter-individual conflict, conflict between two or more person or individual, manager play a key role in resolution of this conflict. Inter-individual means among the different group of people, two different person, there may be the conflict. Inter-group conflict, conflict within a group or team. Inter-group conflict, conflict between two or more teams, groups or department, manager play a key role in resolution of this conflict. Inter-group conflict. Intra-organizational conflict, conflict that arise inside the organization, inside the organizations. Inter-organizational conflict, conflict two or more organizations, like conflict between buyer organizations and the seller organizations. I think these are all the levels basically, you know. Types, different things, and level is also different things. Type shows types of conflict, or level means intensity of conflict, that means who are involved in conflict. So this is basically the level of conflict. Now see the some other things basically stages of conflict. When conflict arise, when conflict expose, you know, that is so called stages of conflict. That means starting of conflict, that is initial stage of conflict, and the next stage of conflict, that is the mature stage of conflict. So one by one we can discuss latent conflict, perceived conflict, felt conflict, manifest conflict. First one, latent conflict. Each conflict begins with latent conflict. In this stage, conflict is not taken shape, thus it is not apparent. It is in subconscious mind of individual. Reasons may be role of ambiguity, communication barriers, whatever is there basically, you know, that is in initial stage. Not clear it is conflict or not. It is very elementary phase. Perceived conflict, become aware that one is in conflict with another party, can block out some conflict, can perceive conflict when no latent conditions exist. Example, misunderstanding another person's position on an issue. Perceived conflict means this type of conflict basically which we can realize, and that may be the sense of conflict. It is not matured, but it is slightly aware conflict. That means people realize that may be the conflict, but there is no latent conditions exist. Now see, felt conflict is emotional part of conflict, personalizing the conflict, oral and physical hostility, hard to manage episodes with high felt conflict, what people likely recall about conflict. Felt conflict is very important things, basically emotional part of conflict. Emotional part of conflict means that we take it emotionally, this particular conflict, and we just personalize it, and we thought that this conflict, that because of some reasons, but that is practically impact on me, effect on me. So hard to manage episodes with high felt conflict, what people likely recall about conflict. So there may be the chances of oral and the physical hostility, that particular stage. Manifest conflict, two parties to the conflict show a variety of conflictful behavior such as open aggression, oral and physical hostility, withdrawal to work, and what should be the aftermath activity. That means that particular phases manifest conflict, basically that conflict exposed, and we are and that is exposed in behavior, and that is exposed in what I say that among the different group of people. So what exactly we mean to know, that conflict, arising conflict and understanding conflict, realizing, no, that is emotionally accepting this kind of emotionally affect on this particular conflict, and finally that is so called very important manifest, that means the exposing conflict, which shape in different way, like as the hostile attitude, maybe some other things. Now see consequences of conflict, good climate, bad climate. What exactly, basically, if there is conflict, does it create any kind of good climate or bad climate? Good climate means if some new opinion arise out of this conflict, that is the good conflict, and if you increase your decision making alternatives and other things, there is a good conflict. Good climate leads to new ideas, stimulates creativity, motivates changes, promotes organizational vitality, helps individuals and groups establish identities, serve as a safety valve to indicate problems. It's very important part. That means that we can learn something, that because of good climate that creates some good atmosphere, we may share knowledge sharing activities and other things. Bad climate increase distrust and hatred, distract from organization goal, waste resources, creates negative climate, increase dissatisfaction, can increase hostility, aggressive behavior. I mean, there is the consequences, basically, you know. See, if you see the good climate, if you see the bad climate, ultimately what, basically? So need to understand what kind of conflict to be encouraged, what kind of conflict to be discouraged. Some people want to create some kind of problems, innocence in the organizations, creating some kind of artificial scenario that may be very harmful. So what to do that particular cases, basically we are supposed to see exactly very scientific way who is creating this kind of rumors and other things, create some kind of conflict unnecessarily and without any reasons, create some kind of behavior or communicate such kind of things which can create some kind of bad climate in the organizations, ultimately which is very harmful for any organizations. Now see, the effect of conflict on organizational performance is very important. Through this chart you will be knowing exactly. Low conflict means low motivation, poor decisions, weak performance. By this particular diagram chart, you are very much clear. Low motivation and poor decisions, weak performance, that because of low conflict. And moderate conflict, say for example, boost creativity, better decisions, high performance. High conflict means stress, poor teamwork, low productivity, weak performance. So things are that conflict may be low, may be moderate, may be high. Low conflict is not acceptable, high conflict is not much acceptable. Why low conflict is not acceptable in organizations? Because that disturb the productivity, that disturb the performance, it is very much clear, but moderate is very fantastic, that because that emerge some kind of innovation, better decisions and high performance. Now reducing conflict, that is very important for any people, organization. Lose-lose method means in conflict episode do not get what they want basically. We are not clear exactly what you want to want. Lose-lose conflict, lose-lose methods, that is the reducing conflict. Win-lose methods, one party is clear winner, another party is clear loser. Then win-win methods means each party to be conflict episode gets what he or she wants. This is very important. Lose-lose methods, win-lose methods, win-lose, win-win methods means it is to be understood very clearly. Why this thing is very important? In lose-lose case, what exactly themes, basically we are not clear exactly what conflict is without any intention, that is do not get what they want. But in the case of winning methods, we are clear what we are expecting, what we exactly want. Now see, conflict curing measures. Ignoring the conflict is very important part. What way you can cure? Diverting attention from conflict, facilitating a compromise, appointing a mediator, forcing a solution, expansion of resources. I think this is very important part. That's why, because there is no any solution, I am telling you. If we talk about that, what way we can cure the conflict. You can ignore it, fantastic. You can divert the attention, it's also possible. Sometimes you can appoint some kind of mediator for compromise, forcing a solution, expansion of resources. Now conflict reducing pre-requirement, which is much important for any organization. Pre-requirement, strategy effectiveness, adapt to the situation, be fair and objectives, appropriate and effective communication, mutual awareness, open-minded attitude, willingness to ignore power issues, problem solving procedure. What exactly things are? Conflict reducing pre-requirement, that means we have to be very pre-planned. Pre-requirement is very important things. Why conflict arises? This is very important. So strategy effectiveness, suppose your strategy is very fantastic and you are framing strategy keeping in mind different groups of people. So ultimately your strategy will be very effective strategy. Adapt to the situations, keep in mind what situation demand basically. Open-minded attitude, I think these are all the very big things. Now some of questions students, there is recall questions that is very much useful for any students after listening the lectures on that particular issue, that is organizational conflict, that what things you have learned out of this lecture, this is very important. What barrier in conveying message can result in conflict. That means when your message is not proper, not clear, that may lead some kind of conflict. Which type of conflict is based on interpersonal issues among individuals? Which stage of conflict exists in subconscious mind before taking shape? Which strategy focus on ensuring all parties understanding conflict each other? So this is very important part of any organization basically. When we understand these particular things, you know, communication is one of the main issue I am telling you in the case of antecedents or the causes of conflict. Interpersonal behavior may be the one of the major concern, language may be the major concern, role clarity may be the major concern. Now see, you just go through entire script, whatever I have discussed, all of answer you have, you can narrate by your own language. Now see, some of reference. As I told, conflict, you may not have any particular books. Of course, you may have some kind of books, but what is very important, if you see the some of research article, and it may be the wonderful topic of research, those who are interested in research basically, what kind of conflict in certain organizations, what conflict increase innovation or demotivate the people, ultimately what way that affects on performance. So one can study this thing is very very intelligently in different organizations. So these are all the reference you can see that Jones, George 2008, Roloff Amit 1987 Communication and Conflict, Samantra and Sharma and 2016 Organizational Conflict Literature, a review of Parikalpana, Kit, Journal of Management. These are all the things very much useful for you people that can help you to guide you basically, what way you can shape your knowledge of organizational conflict so that you can reduce it, you can keep it at the optimum level. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much.